Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before that,
Before that,
may I just give some guidance to the committee because it was
Chair, Mr. Chair, we have read the statement of General Bucayo, and this sworn statement is just a general denial. It does not even give us an inkling of what is happening inside the bilibid. It is all general denials. So what is he going to testify now?
that is precisely the reason why we called him in, and that members have the freedom to interpellate him on those points that he may not have divulged in his sworn statement. So this will give the opportunity to everyone to interpolate and or cross-examine General Bucayo on those points that this committee may find necessary for the guidance of the committee in rendering its report.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair,
Congressman Acop, and then
I will yield to the beautiful, gentle lady from Cebu, Mr. Chair.
Congresswoman Garcia.
I thank the handsome chairperson of the Committee on Public
Mutual
Order
admiration,
and
sir.
Safety. Mr. Chair, I did hear that we are precisely going to present General Bucayo so that the congressmen and women can now start interpellating him. But I would understand our process here is that we listen to all the persons to be presented by the DOJ before the interpellation of the respective representatives shall start. And so I do agree with my colleague that having read the affidavit of General Bucayo, there really is nothing substantial that should be taken into consideration, and there is no addition to the already mountain of testimonies that we have been listening to.
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Please,
Mr.
Congressman Acop, then Congressman Lechon. Vice Chair Lechon.
I would like to disagree with my esteemed colleague from Cebu because maybe from the statements of General Bucayo, there were two O-plans which were mentioned. And precisely from there, we would be able to come out with how they came out with the names of the 19 inmates who were transferred. Kasi sila po ang nagplano nung sumunod na operation. Gusto po natin malaman kung paano nila pinili yung 19 na tao. So, Mr. Chair, I think we need to finish with the statement of General Bucayo so that we can interpret him on so far as Oplan Galugad and Oplan Nomad stated in his statements are concerned, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Vice Chair Lechon.
Yeah, for the record, and with all due respect to our distinguished congressmen, our colleagues in Congress, for the record, I was one of those who among requested for the issuance of subpoena for General Bucayo to be here and air his side, considering there were several insinuations and allegations against his person and against his character. Now that he is here and going about throughout his affidavit, it may be in a form of general denial, but regardless whether it's a general denial, specific denial, it will be up to him, to the detriment of the general, to put his defense. But nonetheless, in the essence of fair play and justice, we ought to hear the side of General Bucayo, and it will be up to us, members of Congress, to interpolate and test his credibility, especially as regards specific allegations of the different inmates who alleged that General Bucayo was indeed part and parcel of the grand conspiracy in the deterioration of operation and management of the Bureau of Corrections. So I stand to my opinion that he be allowed to air his side, and afterwards members of Congress be allowed to interpolate and test his credibility. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
in view
Chair.
of that explanation, can we now proceed in order to not to delay the proceedings that we have now. After all, our distinguished colleagues could ask questions after the resource speaker could speak.
Just as
Okay,
a,
just
just as a rejoinder, Mr.
Congresswoman.
Chair, if we must find the affidavit of General Bukayo of great importance so that he be presented to us, and yet precisely because there is mention of the several OPLANs that were being planned. OPLAN Kronos, in fact, as presented by General Magalong, had been set aside. I cannot understand, Mr. Chair, if that should be the reason why, in the same breath, we would not allow the testimony of Lieutenant Colonel Ferdinand Marcelino, who is also talking about a particular OPLAN that was being planned by...
Oh, anyway,
So-
just to interrupt, the matter has been ruled upon earlier, so let us not raise that as a matter of another matter. But I think I have already cited the rule, Section 10, that gives right to General Bukayo to be heard. And besides, I think, this is not just for the committee to consider, given the many, what do you call this, yung mga media interest in this, and I guess the people would also want to know, and perhaps he might wish to share also to the people and try to clear his name through the media that are present around us. So, I guess the matter has been discussed thoroughly, and unless
Mr. Chair.
there are other things to consider, then
Mr. Chair.
we may as well already
Mr. Chair.
proceed with General Bukaya.
Yes. Mr. Chair, I bow, of course, to the wisdom of the chair on the issue of General Bukayo. No? But you see, my little experience as a litigator has shown that it's very difficult to ask interpolating questions on all forms of witnesses. No? Normally, even in court, we listen first to prosecution and then defense. No? Of course, we're not a court, but I find it rather difficult to ask interpolating questions now to all witnesses, no? Regardless of who or why they are here. So my proposal is, yes, we can listen to the general, but may I recommend or suggest that we proceed with interpellation first of the resource persons brought by the DOJ, and after which we can listen to the good general and ask our interpellations. Because right now, number one, we have time limitation. 3 minutes was the time given to us the last time. If we're going to ask all the interpellation questions that we want to ask from the resource persons of the Secretary of Justice and the General, we'll never have the time. And it's very difficult to focus as well, no, on the right questions to ask given the limited time period. So may I
think
suggest?
the matter, Congressman Roque, has been resolved earlier. That was the position of the chair before, but then it was the committee's desire that all witnesses be first presented before they are interpellated, and they will be interpellated all at the same time. So anyway, you are now recognized, Mr. General Bukayo.
Maraming po salamat, Mr. Chair, sa lahat po ng member ng committee at sa lahat ng nandirito. Magandang hapon po. I'm here not only to respond to the invitation, but as mentioned earlier, I primarily volunteered to attend this meeting to clear my name and help enlighten matters of issue. Thanks to the committee for giving me this opportunity. Maraming po salamat, to air my side of the matter and relate situations in Bucor. I'm willing to fully cooperate with the committee in its investigation. Mr. Chair, I have prepared the sworn statement which was already distributed, but I have here with me a summary, a shorter version that summarizes what is inside my opening statement. I hereby categorically deny the claim of convicted inmates of the New Bilibid prison that I requested to receive monthly assistance or payola from them when I served as the director of the Bureau of Correction. I have never accepted even a single centavo, nor did I task anyone on my behalf to collect money from any inmate in any prison facility. For the record, I was the 4th Bucor director under the previous administration. I assumed office on March 2013, almost 3 years after the previous administration started running the department. Upon assuming, I was shocked like you to learn of the great magnitude and multitude of the deep-rooted problems of our prison facilities resulting from decades of government neglect. The most appalling of which is that the NBP is no longer a prison, but has turned into a fort seemingly controlled by inmates, a walled community of convicts. All of this did not happen overnight or over the course of my assignment as the director of the Bureau of Correction. These problems persisted long before me, and I trust up to this very day. These alarming and disturbing issues clearly points to a problem with and within the system, a complex problem that developed over the past decades. Given the seriousness and gravity of the problems afflicting the New Bilibid prison, I prioritized the implementation of much-needed reforms within the Bureau, and cognizance of the limitation of the Bucor also enlisted the aid of other government law enforcement agencies such as the NBI and the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Council Committee in combating illegal activities inside the NBP. The resulting plan was implemented. The resulting plan, which is Oplan Nomad for Bucor and NBI Oplan Galugad, was implemented on December 15, 2014, which extracted and transferred to another detention facility 19 high-profile and high-risk inmates identified to be the main personalities managing illegal activities inside the NVP. This resulted in the severe crippling of their illicit activities inside the NVP. This also confirmed and exposed to the free community the extent of neglect that contributed to the worsened condition of our penitentiary. If I was in the payroll of my accusers, as they claim, I had no reason or incentive to mount a risky, complicated, and dangerous operation such as the one conducted on December 2014. I would also like to take this opportunity to dispel the insinuation that I prevented or preempted Oplan Cronus of the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, as testified to by Police Deputy General Benjamin Magalong during the early hearing before this august body. I had no power or authority to prevent it, as it was directly presented to the former head of the Department of Justice. All I was concerned about at that time was the careful planning of the extraction of the high-profile and high-risk inmates from the NBP to prevent any possible violent confrontation during extraction. This is considering that at the maximum security compound, the inmates numbering to more than 14,000 are not restrained. Wala pong bars doon. And the high-profile and high-risk inmates are embedded within the respective gang as leaders or as influential sponsors of these gangs. And another concern was how to address the bigger problem of where to transfer extracted inmates, since there is no facility under Bucor which can effectively segregate them from the inmate population even in Bucor's regional facilities. In addition, I was concerned about the legality of transferring the inmates to another detention facility other than the one designated by the courts upon the inmate's conviction. As such, I requested legal opinion regarding the matter, and it was deemed by the former Secretary of Justice that the undertaking is fully sanctioned under the Bucor Manual and also under relevant laws on prisoner safekeeping and rehabilitation. This is to ensure that no legal ramification shall ensue after the transfer of the inmates. To set the record straight, when word started to go around about drug activities at the NBP, many law enforcement agencies took notice and started to develop their own intelligence plans on how to address the problem. Since the NBI was already an active partner of Bucor and PAOK, their plan was regarded to have corresponded to the three crucial concerns vital to the success of the operation. One, who should be extracted and segregated from the NBP. Two, how to extract them without or with less violence. And three, where should they be transferred? The Bucor started preliminary preparation to address NBP problems as early as 2013, 1 month after I assumed office, with our application for membership to the National Law Enforcement Coordinating Committee, Subcommittee on Organized Crime, which was done to boost coordination with other law enforcement agencies and to request for assistance in addressing the illegal activities inside the NBP. Moreover, preparation to address NBP issues were already being undertaken when sometime in September or October of 2014, I was directed by the Secretary of Justice to attend a meeting in PIDEA, which was also attended by NBI and CIDG, wherein activities to address criminality inside NBP were discussed. As a reaction to this, I voiced out my concern about the careful planning of the extraction of the high-profile and high-risk inmate from the NBP to avoid violence and the transfer of extracted inmates to a secure detention facility for their segregation from the inmate population. Subsequently, in one of the meetings among the heads of DOJ, Bucor, NBI, and PAOK, I asked the former Secretary of Justice if we are going to inform CIDG on the plan. And she said, no need. It seemed that since there was already a prior coordination with the NBI that time, there really was no need to bring in another investigating unit into the fold. Needless to say, the operation in December 2014 was very successful in segregating the high-profile and high-risk inmates. Nevertheless, undertaking said operation had a big price to pay, including threats to my life and to my family, which has caused us so much distress, not to mention the anxiety of possible retribution from the inmates affected by the operation. Even immediately after the operation, I and participating Bucor personnel were publicly perceived to have been sleeping on the job and that the operation caught us flat-footed. The frustration and feeling of abandonment after that operation were too much to bear, that I tendered my resignation to the former Secretary of Justice on that same day. Finally, in February 2015, I submitted my written letter of resignation to the former Secretary of Justice. Volumes of documents will prove my unrelenting effort to battle the proliferation of illegal activities in the NBP and to prevent its perpetrators from conducting them within the walls of Bilibid. Like President Rodrigo Duterte, I believe that illegal drugs pose a serious threat to our citizenry, and I fully support this war on the illegal drug trade and his initiative to utilize those behind it. These are the facts, Your Honors. Again, let me put on record that I have no connection nor I have